Man, I'm so bored. Sophomore year is finally over, and I have nothing to do. Let's see. Harry Potter? I guess this will do. The Boy Who Lived. Mr. and Mrs. Dursley of number 4 Privet Drive were proud to say that they were perfectly normal, thank you very much. They were the last people you'd expect to be involved in such anything strange or mysterious, because they just didn't hold with such nonsense. Mr. Dursley was the director of a firm called Grunnings, which made drills. He was a big, beefy man with hardly any neck, although he did have a very large mustache. Mrs. Dursley was a thin and blonde, and had nearly twice the usual amount of neck, which came in very useful as she spent so much of her time craning over garden fences, spying on the neighbors. The Dursleys had everything they wanted, but they also had a secret, and their greatest fear was that someone would discover it. They didn't think that they could bear it if anyone found out about the Potters. The Dursleys shuddered to think about what the neighbors would say if the Potters arrived in the street. The Dursleys knew that the Potters had a small son, too, but they never even had seen him. This boy was another good reason for keeping the Potters away. They didn't want Dudley mixing with a child like that.
Are the rumors true, Albus?
I'm afraid so, Professor.
And the
good and the bad.
And the boy, Albus, do you really think it's safe leaving them with these people? I've watched them all day, and they're the worst sort of muggles imaginable. They really are.
The only family that he has.
The boy will be famous. There won't be a child in the writing world who doesn't know his name.
Exactly. He's better off growing up away from all of that until he's ready. Good luck, Harry Potter.
Harry, I'd like to speak to you.
Yes, Miss Stoll. Is something wrong?
Well, on the contrary, Mr. Potter, I must ask, has anything stood out to you in your essays recently? Perhaps strong rhetoric?
Rhetoric? What's rhetoric?
You mean you've never wondered where it came from? The persuasiveness of your arguments. You really don't know, do you? You're a comper, Harry.
Harry was in denial. Harry, a writer? The thought was ludicrous to him, but everywhere he went, the signs became more and more obvious. He felt it on the posters in Mrs. Stoll's room, and he heard it in the way his classroom spoke. He found that everyone, whether they realized it or not, made choices in how they acted, from how they structured their arguments to the details they chose to include, and these choices had the power to make or break others' impressions of him. Eventually, they began hearing voices. Hearing voices was never a good sign, except in the writing world. No one could understand the voices except for Harry. They knew they were calling for him. Harry gave up. He couldn't resist it anymore. The voices led into a strange fortress, Z206. Inside, Harry saw a large disarray of random objects. A black cauldron, an oversized Olaf, a large yellow car, and just like that, Harry was sure he was destined to be an AP Comp. As Harry delved into the writing world, he and other first years were introduced to the basics of language.
Rhetoric. One of writers' most rudimentary skills is the understanding of rhetoric. What? It is not what you say, it is how you say it.
Rhetoric.
Stop. You're going to take someone's ear out. It's not rhetoric, it's rhetoric.
When you say it, I hear something.
Rhetoric.
All the new students were sorted into one of the 4 different houses. Gryffindors, such as Harry, had a knack for appealing to their audience and putting their strongest argument last. Hufflepuffs could synthesize sources seamlessly, so they could incorporate sources while maintaining their own voice. Ravenclaws prided themselves on the mastery of Joliefe's rhetorical diagram, which increased their ability to thoroughly analyze an author's rhetorical strategy and style to determine their purpose. Slytherins never close read their passages, and therefore failed every single multiple choice they took. At the end of the year, the points each house collected by winning apprentice tasks and lost for incorrectly identifying rhetorical mode would be tallied up. The house with the most points would win the apprentice challenge, and the select student with a strong voice and near perfect understanding of ethos, logos, and pathos would earn the coveted title Master of Language. Harry, some believed, was the chosen one. And so the year progressed. Harry struggled to keep his eyes open during a history of rhetoric taught by Professor Binns. He sighed impatiently during conversations with the talking Aristotle painting, which guarded the door to the Gryffindor bubble room. Suddenly, AP Comp began to seem less like an adventure and far more like a chore. But Harry and his fellow Gryffindors continued to work valiantly through the apprentice tasks they were faced with. After each task, Headmaster Roth provided them with a small token, a rhetorical devices chart, Hufflepuff's cup, which contained logos, pathos, and ethos, Ravenclaw's diadem, encrusted with rhetorical strategies, and even Roth's resurrection stone and a ring, a guide to syntax. One night, Harry found the mysterious Lucille Payne's diary, Law. Gryffindor had all the pieces, but none of them were fitting together, and owls were quickly approaching. Frustrated, Harry gave up. It was then that Harry made his first grave error. He decided to wing the owls. What was even worse was that he thought that he had done pretty well until he received Roth's howler.
You fail! You got a T for troll!
Harry was defeated. Never had he seen a Scantron so pink. It was as if he had taken the test using Fred Weasley's brain. Had he learned nothing all year? After trying first semester of AP Comp, Harry reluctantly returned home for a winter break with the Dursleys. He had made his decision. Comp was not worth it. Well, even the Muggle world was better than this. Harry was finally back in the Muggle world, but nothing was the same. When he returned home, something strange happened. Even though he was in the Muggle world, Harry began to notice little pieces of rhetoric everywhere. It began during a trip to Kroger with the Dursleys. While Dudley and Mrs. Dursley examined the cupcakes, Harry rushed around the store to buy the rest of the groceries. While hurrying past the snacks aisle, he noticed a tub of margarine. He was struck by the way the advertisers included a catchy slogan, "I can't believe it's not butter." Companies used relevant information to appeal to their audience, so as to effectively persuade customers to buy their product. Later, at Dudley's doctor's appointment, Harry noticed it again. The doctor employed an appeal to authority and forced Dudley to stick to the prescribed diet by emphasizing the fact that he had a medical degree. He used different types of evidence and deductive reasoning to logically explain his diagnosis. That night, during dinner, Harry couldn't shake the power of rhetoric on the television screen. He identified a fallacy in the logic of a political correspondent whose argument made little sense due to a slippery slope in the reasoning. Finally, when scrolling through Twitter, Harry couldn't deny it anymore. He couldn't resist analyzing the Ron's choice of colloquial diction and short sentences conveyed his agitation towards losing his mouse. Although Harry came home thinking comp was a waste of time, he realized by the end of his vacation that comp was everywhere. The power of rhetoric rested in the take-home messages of movies, testimonies of flustered witnesses, the nervous proposals of high school students. No matter where Harry went, he couldn't escape it. He realized he had to go back. If rhetoric was everywhere, he needed to figure out how to make use of it. With that, Harry packed his bags and returned to the writing world.
Okay, with superb clarity, this book strips away the mystery from writing. It illuminates the uses and misuses of words, sentences, paragraphs, and themes.
Marilyn's pants, Harry. Would you stop that?
Stop what?
Using that book. It's giving you all the answers.
So what?
You can barely write a full and final thesis on your own.
Maybe not yet, but I will get there, Hermione. This book and this class are both just giving me the tools I need to succeed. By applying what Lucille and Headmaster Roth teach us, we can purposefully make choices that make our writing more effective. Let's work together and put together what we've all learned about rhetoric.
As soon as Harry, Ron, and Hermione returned to the writing world, they got to work. Within days, they gathered enough people to form the largest study group AP Comp had ever seen. Harry, with his improved ability to work in groups, and Hermione, with her trusty copy of the language of composition, would lead Roth's army to all-round 5s on the upcoming AP exam.
Will you teach us the difference between synecdoche and metonymy? Will you teach us how detail, imagery, and tone all work together to convey author's attitude? Will you teach us how to refrain from phrases such as good diction and smart rhetoric, and from using pie in our soapstones?
Yes, 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 and yes! In AP Comp, you'll learn all of that and more.
Can we play review in a jar?
No!
Quick, someone get the resurrection stone. We need to bring this essay back to life. Look what I got.
Hey, it's Ravenclaw's diadem. It's encrusted with rhetorical strategies that we can use to fix this essay.
Guys, it's midnight. I think it's time to call it a day.
We're going to fail this exam. I never should have taken AP Comp.
Bloody hell, enough with this negativity. Don't you guys get it? Rhetoric is everywhere.
That's just a load of crap fed by the ministry. Comp is just a filler class so they can make more money.
That's it. We're going to Hogsmeade. I have something to show you guys. Let me grab my invisibility cloak.
Let's go.
What are we doing here? It's already sunrise.
Look around. Rhetoric is everywhere.
I don't see it.
Look at the Hogshead and the architecture in Hogsmeade. The rest of the stores, like 3 broomsticks, exemplify the quaint, tranquil environment of a small town. But the Hogshead is the opposite. It's dark and grimy. It creates a contrasting tone that is apparent to everyone. Because of it, they can attract different kinds of customers. That's rhetoric. The different choices they make reveal different themes.
Think about the Daily Prophet and the Quibbler. Their subject matter is entirely different. The Quibbler is a small newspaper run by Luna Lovegood, its father, and it discusses rack-spurts and blast-ended scroots. The Daily Prophet, on the other hand, has a popular gossip column by Rita Skeeter.
And all she seems to do is comment on my love life.
Yeah. Their difference in choice of subject matter, as well as their tone, builds their attitude and purpose. Because of that, readers know which paper to go to for specific kinds of information.
Oh, okay, I get it. So, you would never go to Rita Skeeter for her opinion on rack spurts. She isn't knowledgeable in that area, right?
Also, rhetoric teaches us that it's important to check our sources. The writers should develop ethos.
Like the anime guy incident. After people learned Skeeter was the illegal anime guy, they lost all trust in her. She isn't credible anymore.
Okay, well, we gotta get home, man. Our exam's in an hour.
So much for a night of good sleep.
The writers left the exam room feeling like Triwizard champions. They had finally confronted and defeated their greatest nemesis, Voldemort, who had been posing all year as the AP Comp exam with the use of the Polyjuice potion. The writing world rejoiced. It was finally all over, or so they thought. Saviors of the writing world, the students assumed they were done with Comp. But like Harry during winter break, they quickly realized rhetoric was everywhere. As they ventured onward to bigger and better things, the students were continually reminded of the power of rhetoric in the writing world. They found they were using the skills that they developed during the apprentice in all aspects of their life, their jobs, their families, and their hobbies.
Harry, it's Colin. Do you have any last words of advice for the incoming juniors?
Sure, Colin. Taking comp is a great decision.
Yeah?
It brings out the best of every student's abilities.
Okay.
Your writing, your teamwork, your leadership. It's not just about the essays. To be successful in life, you need to be able to work with others and guide them towards your vision. By mastering language, you gain an ability to make the best choices to show your audience exactly what you're trying to say.
That's easy for you to say. You're the chosen one, the master of language. This was your fate all along.
That's not true, Colin. With endeavor and a willingness to learn, you can truly achieve anything in this class. It's like Headmaster Roth once told me. It is our choices that show what we truly are, far more than our abilities.
Watching the first years filter through Z206, Harry felt a smile come to his face. Throughout the year, whenever tears threatened to break loose, he was quick to reassure the younger students with all the patience and people skills he had gained from AP Comp. The late nights and Raxpert-ridden brains would not last forever, he told them. All was well. They realized that AP Comp and Rhetoric was really just a series of choices. It's the underlying message behind every email, advertisement, and headline post. It's how firmly you grip someone's hand in a handshake, how you introduce yourself, the way you choose to make a first impression. It's the words you use while begging your teacher to bump your grade, the body language you emulate when convincing your parents to buy you a new car. It isn't what you say, it's how you say it. Because no matter what you do, rhetoric will always be present in your life. AP Comp was the only way Harry and the writers could learn how to properly use the power of rhetoric. AP Comp just isn't a class. It's a way of life you choose for yourself. And just like with the rhetoric, the choice is yours.
Someone get the resurrection stone. We need to bring this essay back to life. I brought Ravenclaw's diadem. It's encrusted with, Why?
Can't see it. Can you pull it? Yeah, will you?
Harry, it's Colin. Do you have any last words of advice for the incoming challenge?
Well, I'm a doctor, as you can see here, and as a qualified pediatrician,